93 to 97 Lt1 pile of crap. So you have a no spark issue. It could be a multitude of things. Mine was a little weird because chipmunks ate my harness here, and that's why I didn't have spark. But then all of a sudden I got no spark again, but it wasn't that. And it kind of sent me into a frenzy, and I shot the parts can at it, which you should never do on these cars. There's multiple things you should be able to check before you do that. I did not, because I'm dumb. Don't be like me. Replace those wires. I'm like, okay, so you on these cars, you can either have 2 or 1 ground for the PCM on the passenger motor mount. You should always check those. Those get corroded over time. And then, you know, you got your Lt1 OptiSpark harness right here. You know, you could replace that pretty easy. And then you go over here, you got your coil wire grounds over here and stuff. You know, you check those. Those grounds are important. You can check your connectors right here, and your connector on the ICM. Stuff like that, pretty easy, basic, you can check, and, you know, it's not too expensive. And, now there's a really good website I'll drop in the bio that shows a great way to test the ICM. That's a common failure because they get heat soaked right here. And the coil, I mean, sometimes. I really never found a bad coil ever. You can check your coil, you can check your ICM through the website, and you know, some people don't even think about this, but this wire, this plug wire, the coil wire, can go bad too. But you can check the continuity on that, you know, to see what's going on. But none of those were my issues. I just parts canned that, and then everyone kept saying, "Oh, it's the OptiSpark, it's the OptiSpark." Well, it wasn't the OptiSpark, and I knew it wasn't going to be the OptiSpark, but everyone said it was. So you know what? I'm dumb. I was like, alright, whatever. I should replace it because my water pump, you know, looked gross, and it was leaking oil behind the oil seal. And this did have oil on the inside. I took it apart and looked at it. But what you should do is go on that website, check and verify it powered everything. And you know, if you do, that's great. I did, and I still have an issue, which was not fun. But you know, if you preemptively already just bought an OptiSpark, or you know, just have one to your disposal, you can hook up the wiring harness to it. You can hook up this coil wire, and then you can hook up one of the plugs, and then, you know, put a spark plug on it, and you can ground it out, and then you can, you know, start with the drill. There's videos on that on YouTube, and you can check it to see if the OptiSpark is the issue. You gotta have your key on, by the way. It didn't have spark that way either. I knew it wasn't gonna work. I just like torturing myself, and I love spending money. And you know, I was like, okay, well, none of that worked. It's probably the PCM. Well, I didn't want to pay $1,000 for a PCM because this is a stupid 93 car. But, see the seats out. Well, turns out, GM hates you, and I hate them, but they make a crappy car that I fell in love with. Well, I was like, huh. There's a switch under here called ignition switch. It's not the key switch. And they put it all the way up there, and you have to dismount this, and you have to get in there. Well, I replaced that switch. Well, lo and behold, it didn't work. Well, you know what did work was jiggling the wires to that connector. I'll get a better view right now. I just need to crawl in this stupid thing. There is a video on YouTube about this, and I can link that in the bio too. He didn't take out the seat. But if you just take out the seat and lay down, you can kind of get in there a lot easier instead of trying to take the column out. Alright, now let's crawl under here. Okay. So, you see those two connectors right here? Well, this one's going to be a blue one. This one's going to be a black one. Well, they get really hot, and they deform their connectors. You know, the prongs, they get superheated. Well, I yanked on this, and lo and behold, the car started great, and I duplicated it 3 times where I would jiggle around, the car would shut off and turn on, shut off and turn on, with just wiggling the wire. Well, yeah. That was it. And it's a pain in the butt. You need a... Oh, I'm looking right here, hold on. You need a little 1/4-inch ratchet, and you need a size... sorry, I can't read right now. 5/16. 5/16, 13mm to get this brace off. Yank it down. And there's a good video on YouTube on how to replace it. I will say that it sucks, but it's doable. And if you pull out the seat, it's a lot more manageable instead of trying to pull out the whole console. But yeah, I'll link the parts to the 93, my car, all the parts I used in this. And yeah, that probably is your spark issue. If you don't have spark, or fuel, or dead gauge cluster, because that's also a symptom. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.